Hello everybody, I would like to talk about how to perform the ANOVA 2 factors with replication, but using the Excel. So before starting the application or the performing of this analysis, we should ensure that the data analysis tool pack has been already downloaded in the Excel. If not, it's very easy to get it. First of all, click the File tab. After clicking the File tab, you will have this window. Select the option in the left column. So after clicking the options, you will get this window. Select the add-ins in the left column or left options. Then select the analysis tool pack, then click on the go button, then click OK. You will have this add-ins window. Check for the analysis tool pack, then click the OK button. So this is the way how to install or to download the data analysis tool pack. In order to make a verification that it's already installed, you should simply click the data tab, then you click on the data analysis. So after clicking the data analysis, you should have the following dialog box, which appears here below, which contains many of the analysis tools, same like ANOVA single factor, ANOVA two factor, correlation, covariance, and so on. Regarding the ANOVA single factor, I have presented it in a previous video. You can return back to it. But now our selection is the second selection, which is the ANOVA 2 factor with replication. Notice that we have another option, which is ANOVA 2 factor, but without replication. The meaning of the ANOVA 2 factor with replication is simply that we have, for each group of the experiment, we have a multiple of the observations. If we have only one observation, so we should select the other choice, which is the ANOVA 2 factor without replication. So this is how to install the data analysis tool pack. Regarding our question, solve this question using the Excel. We have an engineer expect that the surface finish of the metal parts is influenced by two factors. The first one is the type of paint. So this is the first independent factor, and the second one is the drying time. He selected 3 drying times: 20, 25, and 30 minutes. So these are the levels for the drying time factor, and used 2 types of paint. And we have here 2 levels for the type of paint factor. So the design here is simply 2 by 3, 2 level for the first factor, the type of paint, and 3 levels for the second factor, which is the drying time. 3 parts are tested. So we have here 3 replications for each combination of the experiment, with each combination of paint type and drying time. What is needed is to conduct the two-way ANOVA, of course, by using the Excel to test the hypothesis. The value of the significant level is 0.05. The data are as follows. So let's understand the table here before starting the solution. We have here two factors. The first factor is the paint type, and the second factor is the drying time. So we have, or we should use the ANOVA analysis for two factors. Regarding the first factor, we have two levels. The first one is the level for paint 1, and the second is the paint 2. Regarding the second factor, which is the drying time, we have three levels. The first one is the drying time, which is equal to 20 minutes. The second level is the drying time, 25 minutes. And the third level is the drying time, which is 30 minutes. Regarding the records, for example, let's understand this record in the combination of paint 1 and drying time 1. So we have 3 bars here. After using the paint number 1 and the drying time 20 minutes, we measure the surface finish for the metal parts. For the first part it is 74, while for the second one it is 64, and for the third part it is 50. So this is the equation. Now simply we can open the Excel in order to solve for this question. This is the Excel sheet, and here we have the data. First we should click the Data tab, then we should click the Data Analysis. We will have all of these analysis tools. We should select the second option, which is the using of the ANOVA for two factors with replication, then click OK. First he asks you regarding the inputs. First you should select the input range, so it is by default it is selected, otherwise we can select. Of course the input range should include the titles or the headings. Regarding the rows per sample, this represents the number of observations or number of replication in each combination group. So we have 3 here. Regarding the alpha, which is the significant level, it is by default it is 0.05, and again it is in our question 0.05. So these are all about the input. Regarding the output option, if you want to show the option in the same sheet, you should select the first option, but you should select the cell that the output will be shown from that cell. If you want to show the output in a new worksheet, you should select the second choice. If you want the output to be in a separate Excel file, you should select the third choice. So let's select the first one, and let's select the cell that the output will appear. So we select this cell, which is cell F1. So click enter. So now he determined the output range cell, which is cell F1. Again, OK. So we have here the results for the ANOVA 2 factors. So this is the title of the analysis. It is ANOVA 2 factor with replication. Here we have a summary, some descriptive statistics. For example, regarding the records for paint 1 and the drying time 1. Here we have the summary. Count, we have 3. This is for paint 1. So we have 3. The sum of the observation, which means the sum of these 3 records, it is 188. So the average, you can get it by dividing the sum by the number of observation or number of replications. So it's 62.67. And regarding the variance, it is 145.33. The second summary here, it is related to these observations. So we have 3 observation with 178 sum, with 59.3 average and 212.3 variance. And these are related to the paint 1 and drying time 30 minutes. And these are the total for paint 1, which is simply the total of all of these observations. So we have 9 observations. The total of these observations for paint 1 is 621, and the average is 69, and the variance is 247.75. The same for paint number 2. For this observation, we have this summary, count 3, the sum and the average and the variance for this observation in the table. Here the summary, and the last 3 observations are these summaries. And these are the total for the paint number 2, regardless the drying time, which means that we have the summary for all of the records for paint number 2. And regarding the total for the column here, these results here represent the records for the drying time 1, which is 20 minutes. These records here is belonging to the second drying time, which is 25 minutes. And the third results here is related to the third drying time, which is 30 minutes. So these are some statistical summary for the 2 factors we have. In below we have the ANOVA table. Let's have a copy for this table. So we have the sources of the variation. We have first the sample. Sample here represents the first factor, which is the paint type. So the sample here means the first factor, which is the paint type. And regarding the columns here represent the drying time, which is the second factor. And we have the interaction between these 2 main factors, and we have the error or the within groups source. Here we have the sum of squares for the first factor and the second, and the interaction, and for the error, and this is the SS total. This is the degree of freedom. the degree of freedom for the first factor, which is the paint type. We have two levels for the paint type. So the degree of freedom for this factor is simply 2 minus 1, which is 1. Regarding the second factor, which is the drying times, we have three levels. So the degree of freedom for the second factor is simply 3 minus 1, which is 2. Regarding the degree of freedom for the interaction, it is simply the multiplication of the degree of freedom for the two factors. And the total degree of freedom is simply 17. We have here the calculation of the mean of squares. And here we have the calculation for f. Simply we can calculate for f by dividing the mean square by the mean square for the error. Here we have the probability value, and the last column represent the value of the f critical. So in order to interpret the ANOVA summary here, first of all, we can simply compare the value of f with the value of the f critical. So for the first factor, which is the paint type, the calculated value of f, which is 1.9 approximately, is less than the value of the f critical, which is about 4.74. So because the value of f is less than the value of the f critical, so we accept the null hypothesis. And the null hypothesis for the first factor states that the mean for the paint number 1 is the same as the mean for the paint number 2. So we don't have any significance for the first factor. Another way to make the interpretation or the conclusion is to check for the probability value. The value of the significant level alpha is 0.05 as stated in our question. So for the first factor, the value of the probability is greater than the value of the significant level. So simply we can accept the null hypothesis. Regarding the second factor, which is the drying time, again the value of the calculated f is less than the value for the f critical. So in this case, we accept the null hypothesis, which states that the three means for the three drying times are the same. And another way to understand this conclusion is to check for the p-value for the second factor. Here the p-value is about 0.92. It is greater than the value of the significant level, which is 0.05. So we accept the null hypothesis. Regarding the interaction between the two main factors, we see here that the value of f is greater than the value of the f critical. So in this case, we reject the null hypothesis and accept the alternative one. Regarding the interaction, the null hypothesis states that there is no interaction. So if we reject the null hypothesis, this means that accepting the alternative one means that there is an interaction between the two factors. Another way to understand this conclusion is to compare the p-value with the significant level. See that here the p-value is less than the significant level. So in this case, we reject the null hypothesis and accept the alternative one. So this is all about the performing of the ANOVA 2 factors with replication by using the Excel. Thank you and goodbye.